What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we've got another new rules roundup for the lovely folks over at the Transformers TCG. We've done the FAQ, we actually did it in 3 parts, there was so much to go through. I will link all of them in the description, but now we've got a rules roundup. So let's get rolling, shall we? Optimus Prime Battlefield Legend, remember this comes up in the rules roundup a lot. When you flip while attacking, you then get to play one of the actions you flipped before the defense flips. What if you get Leap of Faith? Now, Leap of Faith lets you discard the top 2 cards of your deck, and you may play them if you like. Well, if the first card revealed is a grenade launcher, do you immediately get the +4 attack boost? Yes. Yes, you do. Something which you should probably want to do. Staying on Optimus Prime Battlefield Legend, let's say you got a Power Punch. Power Punch gives you bold free, and after you attack, you scrap the card. So you flip for the attack, you choose Leap of Faith as the action. Leap of Faith gives you a W5 Gyro Blaster, which gives you +1 attack, but each player cannot flip more than 2 battle cards during this battle. So, if Optimus Prime takes it, do you keep all the flips revealed from Power Punch? Remember, you've already flipped your 2 normal cards, and then you flipped 3 more from Power Punch. So, does that mean my opponent can now flip more than 2 cards for the defense? Now it's been attached. No. Gyro Blast's ability only triggers if it is attached when the character attacks or defends, and the attack here happened before this was triggered. The attack happened, then Gyro Blaster came on. It's too late for this to be triggered. You can flip as many as you like. Next turn, however, then it's limited to 2. So we've got Bumpers. Bumpers is a lovely little upgrade card, can only be put on cards, it's an armor, and it stops damage counters being moved from other characters to the upgraded character. Well, what happens if you then play Involuntary Promotion, which lets you choose a character, return another character with the same number of stars or fewer from the KO area to the battlefield fully repaired, and then moved any damage counters and upgrades from the chosen character to the returned character, and KO the chosen character. So what if you've got a character with bumpers attached, and you then play Involuntary Promotion on a car to recover it from the KO area? You get bumpers and you get the damage counters, and you're returning the character, right? You don't want to take the damage. You want the character to come in fully healed. Does moving the bumpers over stop the damage being moved over? Unfortunately not. The damage and upgrades are moved at the same time, so by the time bumpers actually starts working, the damage has already been moved, and it is too late. So Pincer is another lovely new card. Pincer Movement, one of my favourite cards in the new set. When one of your Decepticons attacks an enemy this turn, you get an extra attack, but only with one of your other Decepticons against the same enemy. Here's the thing though, let's say you're using Razor Claw, and Razor Claw comes in with a really nice skill that lets you, when you flip to bot mode, attack untapped characters as though they were tapped. Now the general rule is you've got to attack tapped characters unless none of them are tapped, in which case you can attack whoever you like. Razor Claw allows you to break that rule and attack a character that's untapped. If you've played Pincer Movement, does that mean that your second Decepticon can also attack this character? No. Pincer Movement gives you another attack with another Decepticon against the same target, but it's still got to be a legal attack. Generally speaking, you're not allowed to attack untapped characters, although Razor Claw can, a second character chosen with Pincer Movement can't. So maybe try not to use it in this circumstance, or else it will, do nothing. Involuntary Promotion, we've talked about that. That's the one that basically swaps a character in your KO area for one on your battlefield. Can you KO a Battle Master with Involuntary Promotion if I have no bots in my KO area? Now remember, a Battle Master is a character that when KO'd turns into an upgrade. So what you really want to do is KO a Battle Master sometimes as fast as you can so that it can come back as an upgrade. And the answer is yes. If you have no characters in the KO, or the characters in your KO area have too many stars, you can use it to KO one of your characters. You do as much as you can do that. And we'll stick on involuntary promotion for a moment. When I shift the upgrade and damage counters to the return character, what's the timing like? Do I get to choose to shift the damage counters first and then the upgrades, since they are both my triggers? So generally speaking, if multiple abilities and actions trigger at once, the active player gets to choose the order in which they are resolved. But the answer here is no, it's a triggered ability. The instructions are all followed in order, and the damage counters and upgrades are moved at the same time. We saw that a moment ago with Bumper. Cool. So Crash Landing then. Crash Landing is a card I like very much indeed. There's no icons, but it's a utility you put on planes, and when the upgraded character is KO'd, you do damage equal to its attack total to a tapped enemy. Well, what if you've got Raider Tailwind? Raider Tailwind says, when one of your airstrike patrol battles and you flip at least one green icon, it gets +2 attack and +1 defense until end of turn. That's the alt mode skill. In bot mode, it has +1 attack and +1 defense for each airstrike patrol in your KO area, both skills that boost attacks. So if you equip Crash Landing on an airstrike patrol bot that is buffed by Tailwind's +2 attack, does it trigger Crash Landing with the extra attack? And the answer is, Crash Landing will do damage based on whatever the plane's attack was when it was last on the battlefield. Bonuses like Tailwinds will still apply because the plane is KO'd during battle, so whatever the attack was, that's what you get. Now, Nightbird is a phenomenal card. It's got a bounty ability, which is to say an ability that kicks in when you do enough damage to KO a character. You get to play an action from your opponent's scrap pile. Do you keep them? No. You get to play an action from your opponent's scrap pile, but it goes back into your opponent's scrap pile. Any action you play from your opponent's scrap pile goes into your played area, and then back to their scrap pile. Cards always go to their owner's hand, their owner's deck, their owner's KO area, and their owner's scrap pile. That's a very important rule to remember for the foreseeable future. So revenge skills like Ratbat, for instance, they come in when you are KO'd. So Ratbat's got a lovely revenge skill in alt mode. Choose a battle icon color, look at your opponent's hand and scrap a card from it that has a battle icon of that color. But then you've got Deadlock, who's another one of these mercenaries that has another one of these bounties. Flip this and draw 2 cards. So if Deadlock KOs Ratbat, do you draw 2 cards with Deadlock before you scrap with Ratbat, or do you scrap with Ratbat before you draw with Deadlock? If your opponent's got 2 cards in hand, one of which they really need, you want Ratbat first, whereas if they've got a kind of crummy hand, you want them to use Deadlock to draw so that you can potentially get rid of a card they would otherwise rather have kept. And the answer is they trigger at the same time. Bounty abilities are usually handled first because they belong to the active player. Active player stuff goes first. Can Omega Supreme be used in a manner like Sentinels, where you can have a section of his base mode in your KO area to start the game? So Captain Omega Supreme is a new combiner which comes around in Wave 4, and it's actually made of 3 different parts, 2 of which have a very nice skill, which basically says that if your opponent reshuffles their deck, if you've got the other 2 bits on the battlefield or in your KO area, you can combine them to make Omega Supreme. And obviously the ideal situation here would be you got 2 in your KO area, 1 on the field, so you can make Omega Supreme, but still have a whole bunch of other characters taking up the rest of your stars, cheating extra stars in, as it were. I mean, if we look at the Optimus Prime from Wave 2, that was the Sentinel dude, we see that it has a skill whereby when the game begins and you only have Sentinel characters, you choose up to 3 different Sentinels you own from outside the game, putting them in your KO area, in alt mode, fully damaged. The difference is that Optimus Prime has a particular skill in alt mode that says you do that, whereas Omega Supreme just doesn't. So Pincer movement, we mentioned this earlier, it's the one that gives you extra attacks, or one extra attack, but only on a Decepticon and only on a character you've just attacked. If you've got 3 untapped Decepticons and play Pincer movement, do I get to attack the same enemy with each of my Decepticons, or do I only get 1 extra attack in total? It only gives you 1 additional attack. After you play it, the next time one of your Decepticons attacks, you get the extra attack after the current attack. Now I see where they're coming from here, because it says when one of your Decepticons attacks, not the next time a Decepticon attacks, but it is only the next attack you actually get to do so. A question on CALIBURST. Now, CALIBURST is another one of these lovely new ones from Wave 4. When your opponent draws a card, if they've already drawn a card this turn, which will generally be at the beginning of their turn, your opponent chooses one of their characters and does 1 damage to it. Okay, so after the initial draw, my opponent draws 3 cards. To make it easy, let's say they play a Universal Network Access, a card from Wave 2 that just lets you draw 3 cards. Do they take 3 damage all at once, or do they take 1, then 1, then 1 again? And the answer is 1, then 1, then 1 again. And this is extremely relevant. Because if it was 3 at once, you would need to be able to block all 3 damage, whereas being 1 3 times mean that if there is a card that just blocks 1 damage, you can block 1, then 1, then 1. Sabotaged Armaments is another lovely new card coming out in Wave 4, and it is a secret action that is revealed when one of your characters defends, and when it is revealed you scrap all of the attacker's weapons. But if your opponent has a power punch on the attacker, that gives them bold free. So what happens? Do they get the bold before Sabotaged Armaments activates? And the answer is no. You go to attack. As soon as the attack happens, your character is defending. As soon as you go to defend, you reveal it. You then scrap all the weapons. Then the attack happens, but by the time the attack happens, Power Punch is gone. There is no bold free. So what happens when a character with Anticipation Engine swings into a Sabotaged Armaments? Anticipation Engine is an upgrade weapon, and when you attack, you reveal the top card of your deck. If it's an action, you may play it. So does that happen before it's scrapped with Sabotaged Armaments, or after? And the answer is, they trigger at the same time. The attacker will resolve his thing, Anticipation Engine, then the defender will resolve his thing, Sabotaged Armaments, general thing that the active player resolves first. That means, of course, that you do get the benefit of Anticipation Engine. Yay! Now, we mentioned involuntary promotion earlier. Let's go back to it for a moment. Does this count as healing? Now, if it does count as healing, that's very, very important, because we've got, for instance, Torox that prevents you from healing, and we've got Specialist Ratchet, who every time you repair, you get +1 attack until end of turn for each damage repaired. The answer is no. It appears on the battlefield fully repaired. It does not appear and then get repaired. It appears fully repaired, so you don't get the extra attack with Ratchet, and it doesn't get blocked with Torox. Both of those would be pretty big rulings. That is not the case. Metroplex. Metroplex is a wonderful character, but it's a deck in and of itself. It's 25 stars. Now, in Wave 4, we get the counterpart to Metroplex, the Decepticon Tripticon, who incidentally is only 24 stars, but same kind of deal. Can you sideboard Tripticon if you're playing Metroplex? Nope. And the reason essentially is you are allowed to have one character in your sideboard with 19 stars or fewer. Also worth pointing out that Tripticon would not be able to bring his minions. You would just have Tripticon, and that would make a pretty bad deck, so don't do it. No. So going back to Omega Supreme, we talked about the cool new way in which it combines. The thing is, it's when your opponent shuffles their deck. And the rule in the Transformers trading card game is that the second you run out of cards in your deck, you reshuffle your scrap pile and your scrap pile becomes your deck. That is a thing. Simple. However, what if they're mid-attack? So what? If they're mid-attack and they run out of cards, they reshuffle their deck. If they reshuffle your deck, you combine into Omega Supreme. Now, Omega Supreme then becomes the defender. The new combined character, Omega Supreme, becomes the defender. But remember that a combined character begins untapped and remains untapped for the duration of the attack. You then get to use it on your next turn. And Omega Supreme is kind of a one-bot deck, so you will have to use him. Dual Wield, one of those lovely cards that goes and helps out those mercenaries. One of your characters gets an extra weapon slot until end of turn. If that character is a mercenary, you may play a weapon from the scrap pile onto it. If you play it on a mercenary who has no weapons on, do I have to discard that weapon at the end of the turn? Or because I still have an open weapon slot, can I keep it? No, you're good. If you attach too many weapons, you got more weapons than slots, fine. You have to get rid of one. Dual Wield goes away at the end of your turn. Dual Wield gives you an extra weapon slot. But if you play it for a character that has no weapons on, you put one from the scrap pile. And if you don't put a second one on, because remember you can attach just normally during a turn, then it gets to the end of your turn. Dual Wield falls off. You're down to one weapon slot. You've got one weapon. You good, son. You good. Daring Escape. I love Daring Escape. Daring Escape, for each Autobot you have on the battlefield, put the top card of your deck into the KO area face up. If your deck and scrap pile are empty, you win the game. Does it continually check the whole turn or only when the card is played? It only checks one time when the card is played, at which point either you've won the game or you haven't. But if you play it and then you end up with 0 cards in your deck and your scrap pile, too late. Should have waited, really. Played it later. I know that's not always an option. So Brainstorm lets you play 2 actions during your turn. So if you play a Brainstorm and then play 2 overwhelming advantages, do you get to do 15 damage to 2 different enemies? So overwhelming advantage is the Decepticon equivalent of Daring Escape. Instead of winning the game, it lets you do 15 damage to a character, but only if you've got all 5 battle icons in upgrades on the character when you attack, and you flip at least all 5 of the battle icons when you're attacking. Yeah, you're fine. When you play Brainstorm, you play overwhelming advantage. If you meet the requirements, you do 15 damage. You play a second overwhelming advantage. If you meet the requirements, you do 15 damage. Now, okay, you're going to be done at the same time because they're both when you're attacking, but they are different cards that work independently from each other, so they can damage different characters if you so wish. And they're probably going to have to because there are very few characters that can take 15 damage without being KO'd. Swerve. Swerve is a lovely new secret action. You reveal it when a character in bot mode defends, and you flip it to alt mode. Well, what if that character is a cassette, and then that cassette gains stealth? What happens? And the answer is nothing. Because when you attack, the cassette doesn't have stealth, and that's the only time that it matters. It must have stealth when it's attacked to protect itself and make you target something else if there is another legal target. But once the attacks happen, the target is locked in and it's too gosh darn late. So Detritus Arms Dealer lets you play a card for free. Quite nice of him, right? It's got a lovely skill whereby when you flip to alt mode, you may play a card with a black icon. Okay. Can you play a Smoke Cloak to give Detritus Tough 1 for that battle? Or does it apply after flips have already happened? This is still talking about Swerve. Swerve happens before battle cards are flipped. So if you reveal Swerve to flip Detritus, and then play Smoke Cloak, the Tough 1 would be in place before battle cards are flipped, and that's the key point with Bold and Tough. Are they in play before battle cards are flipped? If they are, you good. You good. And finally, we got another moderately complicated one. So Brainstorm is played, lets you play 2 actions during your turn. You then play an Ancient Wisdom that lets you scrap the top 2 cards of your deck, put an action and upgrade scrapped into your hand, and play Unleash Potential. You then play System Reboot. System Reboot forces both players to discard their hand and draw a new hand of 4 cards. You've then got Multi-Mission Gear, which is another one of what I call a specialist upgrade. When you attach it, you may play an action. And Brainstorm, and 2 Unleash Potentials. And the lovely folks have walked us through it. So you play Brainstorm, your first action is Ancient Wisdom, you're allowed to play 1 other action card this turn. You scrap the top 2 cards of your deck, you put an action and or upgrade from among the scrap piles into your hand. At this point, you may play Unleash Potential if you have it. Lets you put a star card you own from outside the game into your hand. If you do, brilliant, but remember you're going to play a System Reboot, so it's up to you. Might be worth playing it just for the sake of not discarding it. But let's say you don't play Unleash Potential. That brings you to the end of Ancient Wisdom, and now you just System Reboot as above. In either case, your new hand is Multi-Mission Gear, Brainstorm, and 2 Unleash Potentials. You've already played an action this turn, so you play Multi-Mission Gear, lets you play an action, like Brainstorm. Brainstorm will allow you to play 2 Unleash Potentials. You've already played Ancient Wisdom earlier in your turn, so you can get 2 1-star cards from outside of the game. Sounds like a play that you may well wish to do. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. We had a 3-part FAQ. We've now gone through the rules roundup as well. Hopefully, hopefully we're going to be able to maybe go a few days without any new rulings being issued. But you know what the deal is. As soon as there are rulings, I will bring them to you. I'm nice like that. For now, I'd like to know what you think about all this, so let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and follow me on Twitter at the Wossy, where we talk Transformers and whatever other games take our fancy. And do please consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.